Hello, ghosties. This is our last episode of 2022. That is
Oh,
insane.
it flew by.
It really did. 10
Rude.
months of chaos with me and Alyssa. So I'm glad you all survived.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
And yeah, and then you get 12 months of chaos next year with
Oh
us.
my
So
glob.
I know it will be
So
really
exciting.
fun. But with that said, before we get into this, we just want to say a huge thank you to all of you for
Mm-hmm.
your support over this year. You all have been so amazing, and we are so honored to have so many people call this their favorite podcast. Our Wrapped came through, and it just ended up being something where it just really showed how much everybody really enjoys the podcast. And I just want to say thank you so much for that. It means so much. And we're so excited to continue offering episodes that are educational and funny and entertaining to listen to.
Of
So,
course, people are listening to us. We're the best podcast on this entire planet. We are the best
I
podcast. You
I
need
think
to
that's a
share with your
little
friends.
big-headed, Alyssa.
Shh. You need to share with your friends. I'm trying to make a sale. You need to share with your friends. Stop getting in my way. And tell everybody
I'm
that
the
we're the best.
Pisces, okay? She's the
No.
Leo. I'm gonna
Hello,
let her do
rar
her thing.
baby. Rrr. You need to share with your friends. Tell everybody about Ghost Tea Podcast. Even people who are like somewhat skeptical, tell them about Ghost Tea Podcast. We are too good to be sleeping on. So y'all better just share along. But yes, thank you very much for all of the support and for the
Yeah.
warm welcome as being co-host. I have just been completely embraced and loved and supported by the people who were listeners before I joined along this year, and it just feels like the most right thing ever. And it's just such an awesome community that we have of people who like to sip on that little ghosty. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
thanks
yeah,
so much, guys.
yeah. And also, I do want to let you all know before we go into next year that Alyssa and I have an announcement for January. We are going to be launching consultations, paranormal
Mm-hmm.
consultations. These are something that I was offering on my own for a while this year as I have experience within paranormal investigation. But Alyssa also has experience now with paranormal investigation, and I often have her consult on my paranormal consultations. So we were like, you know what? Let's just do it together. So
Let's go in
we
together.
we now have stpodcast.com, which just launched
Woo!
since our last episode.
There's
And
so
we
many
will be
cute photos of us, by the way.
there's
You
so
should go
many
and
cute
admire them.
ones. And we will be offering the consultations there. So, whenever we have joint services and things like that, we will be offering them through ghostipodcast.com. So, I really encourage you to check that out after the 9th when that launches. If you have any paranormal activity going on at your home or your business or in your life in general, we would love to hear about it and
Mm-hmm.
consult you and give you some advice on how to navigate that. So, if you're interested in that, you can check that out after that date.
I want to add that we are
Oh my
very
gosh, I
passionate about it.
love paranormal investigation. It
We
is
are so
literally
passionate about it.
something that I could do every day of my life.
It's so much fun. It's
I
so much
love
fun.
it. I love it
Yeah.
so much.
But you know, and I just really want to drive home the thank you again, because our audience has grown so much as well this year.
Mhm.
We've grown, we've expanded, we have we're super official, you know, like we've got our website, we've got our logo, we are just like, we're just pushing forward. We're really serious about keeping Ghost Tea Podcast going and continuing to provide insightful, exciting episodes and introducing more awesome topics all around things that are occult or witchy or paranormal. It doesn't matter. All of it, we'll cover it. So, anyway, it's fucking awesome. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. We actually also just like BT dubs. We also just finished doing our little like 2023 planning session together for
Yes.
Ghosty
I'm
Podcast. And
excited for what's coming. I'm really excited.
be prepared.
Yes. Hold on to your hats.
I hope some
We're
of
gonna
you like
we're gonna all become paranormal rangers.
pew pew. I'm gonna tie that into the story.
Oh my
Actually, let
god.
me put that in my note because I
Yes.
want to tie that into doing one of our lives. Okay,
Yes. All
this
right.
makes sense
So
later.
All right. Well, with that said, welcome back to Coast Tea Podcast. I'm your host, Ariel Willow.
And I am your host, Alyssa. And today we are going to share our experience paranormal investigating the Fairmont Chateau Laurier in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada.
Yay! I'm so excited to share this with you all. But before we start, I just want to remind you that everybody has different views on things, and that's okay. We don't ask you to believe what we do. We just want to share what we found in our personal path with others. In addition to that, we like to approach our paranormal investigations with a touch of the practical and the mundane because we don't want to just be doing it with our intuitive senses. So you will find that as we go through this episode. For those interested in booking a session or learning more about us and or subscribing to the newsletter, you can check out Alyssa's and my websites in the description below, or you can check out ghosttpodcast.com and find links to both of our websites from the About Us page.
Yo, I'm gonna give y'all the background on the
Give us
Fairmont.
the deets.
So sit back, put your fucking feet up, grab yourself some tea, and have a little listen at this really amazing historical site.
She's gonna tell us a ghost story.
Okay, get ready, guys.
Oh my God.
Prepare your buttholes. Okay.
Pucker them buttholes.
Pucker up, ladies. We're on a journey. Let's go.
Did you crack your knuckles?
I did.
Oh my God. Okay, go for it. That was
Okay.
so amazing.
The Ottawa region's identity has been influenced by many cultures, including First Nations, French, English, Scottish, and Irish. So, the city of Ottawa, where I live and where Ariel came to visit, where we hosted our paranormal investigation, is located within the traditional Anishinaabe Algonquin territory. So, since several rivers meet here, the area was always an active transportation corridor for an enormous diversity of Indigenous groups and travelers. The city's name actually comes from the Algonquin word Ottawa, meaning to trade. And European explorers passed through the region beginning in the 1600s, followed by Irish, French, and Scottish settlers who launched the local timber trade in the early 1800s. So the population really increased with the construction of the Rideau Canal, which is well known as I think it is the longest outdoor skating rink or something in North America. I can't remember what it is on stats now, but in any case, the construction of the Rideau Canal as a military defense and transportation route in case of war with the United States. So the settlement was known as Bytown until it was incorporated as the city of Ottawa in 1855. And then in 1857, Queen Victoria chose it as the new capital of Canada. And a number of years following that, Canada was joined in as the part of the Commonwealth, the British monarchy Commonwealth. So, with that being said, that's a little bit on Ottawa itself. So, the Fairmont Chateau Laurier is Canada's most lavish and elegant hotel, and it truly is. It's gorgeous. It's situated just steps from Canadian Parliament. There's granite and white Italian marble building. It was designed in French Renaissance and Neo-Gothic style, and it was built in 1912 for $2 million at the time at the behest of railroad baron Charles Melville Hayes. The plans for the hotel initially generated some controversy as the chateau was to be constructed on what was then a portion of Majors Hill Park, and Sir Wilfrid Laurier, the then Prime Minister of Canada, helped secure the important site for the construction, and thus the hotel was eventually named in his honor. So Laurier's government was also subsidizing the Grand Trunk Railway's Pacific Line. And further conflict had ensued when the original architect, Bradford Gilbert from New York, was dismissed due to disagreements with Grand Trunk executives, and they engaged the Montreal firm of Russell McFarlane to complete the design. So the hotel was to be opened on 26th of April in 1912, but Hayes, who was returning to Canada for the hotel opening, perished aboard the RMS Titanic when it sank on the 15th of April. So Grand Trunk officials held a more subdued opening ceremony on the 12th of June, with Sir Wilfrid Laurier in attendance. In August 1914, Major Raymond Brutinel enrolled the first recruits for the Canadian Automobile Machine Gun Brigade, or the CAMGB, at the hotel. And there was a memorial plaque with a circular bas relief of Brigadier Generals Brutinel and a bas relief of machine gunners on Vimy Ridge, which is dedicated to the memory of Brutinel, who commanded the CAMGB, the members of the Canadian Machine Gun Brigade who died on active service and in honor of those who served. We actually did see that while we were there. When the Grand Trunk became part of Canadian National Railway, or the CNR, in 1923, the Chateau Laurier became one of CN's most important hotels. In addition to hotel guests, the Chateau Laurier has also served over the years as the home of two important Ottawa institutions. So for years, the hotel thrived, playing host to royalty, heads of state, political figures, celebrities, and members of Canada's elite. Given its proximity to parliamentary buildings and the fact that it served as a home and a meeting place for many notable political figures over the years, the hotel has actually been referred to as the third chamber of parliament. Some examples of dignitaries that used to frequent the hotel was Queen Elizabeth II, Winston Churchill, King George IV, Nelson Mandela, Herbert Hoover, Lady Diana. They have all signed the hotel registry as well. And in 1981, the hotel was designated a National Historic Site of Canada, and in 2017 joined the Historic Hotels Worldwide. Now, we're going to get into Charles Hayes because he plays a pretty big part of the hotel lore, if you will. So Hayes was born in 1856 in Rock Island, Illinois, and was raised in St. Louis, Missouri. Like many railroad tycoons, he began working at a railroad company as a young man and climbed up the ranks through hard work and dedication. He eventually became general manager and later president of the Grand Trunk Railway of Canada. Hayes dreamed of building a continental railroad across Canada with luxurious hotels for passengers along the way. So tragically, as we talked about before, just 12 days before the Chateau Laurier opened, Hayes drowned when the RMS Titanic sank in the Atlantic Ocean on April 14th of 1912. Since its completion, however, as we talked about, royalty, heads of state, politicians, celebrities have all graced the chateau, and three movies, three really cute movies, actually, I was taking a look at them, were filmed there. Captain of the Clouds in 1942, Little Gloria, Happy at Last 1982, and H2O 2004 were filmed there. Despite its romantic appearance, several deaths have allegedly occurred in and around the hotel, including suicide by jumping from the upper floors, and many strange stories center on the former Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, or CBC, radio studio that was hosted on the 7th floor, which occupied that space for 80 years. Former CBC chairman Patrick Watson reported several unnerving incidents in his nearby suite. The ghost of an unnamed child has also been reported. According to Glenn Shackleton, proprietor of Canada's original haunted tours, the ghost of Charles Hayes is also believed to roam the chateau's halls. Encounters include a disembodied voice singing, brushes with unseen hands, whistling, and doors opening and closing. And lastly, and this is something that I attribute to the amazing staff that work at the Fairmont. So huge shout out to you guys. You guys were so sweet and gracious.
They were amazing.
Amazing staff, so polite, and just were so happy and eager and willing to support us along our investigation with those that we chatted with. But they shared with us that the hotel had been used over the years to host secret meetings among top government official, military personnel, and the elite. And we started doing a little bit of digging, Ariel and I, into some of the various different plaques that were on the walls while we were there. And we saw a lot of references to the role that the chateau had played as far as military is concerned. And Ottawa has a background, by the way, in the beginning, how the Cold War started, just as a little history factoid, if anybody's interested in that. So another thing that we asked the staff while we were there was, okay, so we know a little bit of the background of the chateau at the time, not very much, not even as much as we just went through. So
Yeah,
we kept it
there's some things
very,
in there where I was just like, "Oh, that makes sense with what
yeah.
came through."
Because we kept it very light, very, very
Yes,
light
I
before
purposefully
we,
try not to know anything about the area that I'm going into before I investigate it,
Mhm.
because I don't want to be biased or influenced at all if I can avoid it. There are places where I just know a little bit about the place before I go. And even before we went there, like Alyssa went through a little bit of the history, but I was like, whoa, whoa, stop. Like she even shared more than I would have wanted her to share. But it wasn't enough to really influence too much in our investigation. But I usually like to go in like with a cold read, like just
Mhm.
nothing about the area, nothing about the building, because I like to not be influenced at all as much as possible. And then kind of see what comes through in the investigation and see if it can be verified by historical accounts or the history of the place or with other people's experiences.
So when we were there and we were talking with the staff, we were asking them, where's the most haunted place? Like we originally, I think our floor that we were booked on was just like a whatever. I think it was like the third or fourth floor or something. And we were like, is it possible to get us on the most haunted floor? Can we move our room to the most haunted floor? And they were telling us that the floor, I think we ended up on the fifth. Did we not?
We ended up on the fifth floor.
Okay, cool. So that
Because the
was
5th floor, I think, is the last floor before the suites, and then the 7th floor is, like, offices, so you can't
mhm.
rent that out.
Yeah, and that was known to be apparently where Charles would hang out. But before we get into what we experienced when we actually got there, one of the things that we did on the way in, the drive in, is Ariel recorded a video where we just kind of discussed what we were already picking up on the way there. Like we were kind of tuning in a little bit and seeing what was coming through, what kind of visions, feelings, taste, sounds, sights, whatever we were seeing, feeling, hearing doesn't matter. And there are some interesting things came through, and at the
Yeah.
time we were like a little confused with some of the things that we were picking up on.
Yeah, well, because it didn't make sense. Like, Alyssa was picking up on some visions, and I was getting feelings, so I was just tuning in and just kind of seeing what came through, because
Hmm.
I like to just kind of open my senses to the area and the building, if there is a building involved, and then just see what it tells me before
Hmm.
I try to tune into any of the spirits. And when I was tuning into the building, I was getting a lot of dirt. Like it was a very earthy feeling energy, which kind of threw me for a loop, because usually when I tune into buildings, if they are larger buildings, especially with the chateau being stone, I didn't really expect to feel like a very, very earthy energy. I expected to feel something more industrial. So it was really throwing me off. And in addition to that, I felt a very reserved energy. Like it felt
Hmm.
very reserved, very careful with who it allowed in
Hmm.
energetically and mentally and or intuitively. It was just very like secretive feeling. And I didn't really pick up on much outside of that on our way there. It wasn't until I actually got to the building that I got more.
Yeah, and we shared some overlap in the secrecy aspect. I was getting a lot of it's the same concept, conservative, tight-lipped, like shh secrets. Like that, it was giving me a lot of that. And I also picked up on there were a number of visions that came through and also feelings. I felt cold and I saw ice. Like what I would just was like a block of ice basically. And I was kind of just describing like I'm seeing ice and I don't really understand what that I didn't understand what that meant. And I was like, I'm sure there's ice on the site. It's fucking Canada. But I was just like, I don't get it. Like I didn't understand what that
Well, and
meant.
we figured too that it might have been connected with like the Titanic stuff. And we are
Mm-hmm.
like, well, it could be
True.
that. So like there was things that came through that we were like, well, maybe it could be this, but we didn't discount that it could be something else too, because you always want to keep your mind open when you're tuning in.
Mm-hmm.
Be aware of what you're getting, but also try to kind of make sense of it in a way. So we did take that into account. It wasn't like we were just like, we don't know what this, but like you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Like
we were
we
taking note of
yeah,
it. Yeah,
we were
taking note of
taking
it.
note of it and making sure that we were taking into account like all the different things, the different aspects at play.
I also saw someone playing a grand piano. I saw a little boy, and I saw a colored man who was in a uniform that I think at the time I was kind of describing as what seemed to be like maybe like a server or a butler or like a something to do with that sort of industry.
Mhm.
And I don't think there was anything else, but the feeling of that conservative secrecy came through real hard, real hard.
Yeah. Yeah, that was like the big energy that I was getting. It's like it kind of kept us at arm's length until we got there and we were
Hmm.
inside, and then it was just kind of like, okay, well, you're here now. Um,
Yeah, it was
so
actually really interesting that it didn't we didn't start getting more until we were literally inside the hotel.
right,
That was
right.
interesting to
It
us.
was. And when we first arrived, like as soon as we walked in the door, we were just like, whoa,
Yeah,
because there was
yeah.
so much.
There were
Like,
so many spirits just in
yeah, and it's not
activity.
yeah, well, and it's not unusual for us to like walk into a place and there to be a lot of spirits present because that's what we experience pretty much every day. But the difference is that when we go into places like Marshall's or Target, it's
Mhm,
somewhere where we're not really opening ourselves up intuitively
mhm,
when we go in there. Like we can pick up on stuff that's coming through really strongly,
mhm,
but when you go into a place for a paranormal investigation, and this is kind of going into like what people call in the industry paranormal hangovers, is
mhm,
because when you are in a paranormal investigation, whether you are someone who's intuitive or not, what happens is that you are energetically opening yourself up to whatever is there, and you're keeping your energy open the entire time you're there. So
mhm,
there's this hyper vigilant state that you go into when you're in a place like that and when you're investigating. So rather than, just picking up on a spirit here and there that would have like a really strong energy, we're picking up on a lot
yeah,
more
it
than
was a
what we typically would
yeah.
because we're already open and we're already ready to like just kind of embrace whatever energies are there. So as soon as we walked in the door, it was just like bam, like all of the ghosties
Ugh,
at once.
no preconceived notions of what we were even looking for or what we were
Yeah.
nothing. We just went in
Yeah.
completely open and just let whatever come through, come through. And the interesting thing was when we got to the counter to check in, I literally saw Charles Hayes standing there. He was
Yeah.
at the counter with us and I was like, I am so sorry because he was trying to talk to me, but I was also trying to talk to Arl and I was also trying to keep note of like the people around me and then trying to
Mhm.
decipher who was alive and who was dead and also like trying to see at what point are we going to start talking to the lady at the counter, like your brain is like
Right.
picking up on all the things. And I had to be like, I am so sorry sir, I desperately want to talk to you, truly I do, but you're gonna have to just give me a second. And he was very polite, he was super super polite, like really
Yeah.
really gorgeous manners, like very very gorgeous manners. I think he even called me ma'am, and I think that took me back. You remember that? I think he called me ma'am, and
Yes.
I was like, "Ma'am, oh my god,
You're like, "Oh, goodness."
oh,
Yeah.
pardon me." He anyway, he was very very sweet, but he was the most prominent figure that I had encountered when we first got there.
Yes, and when we checked in, we went up to the room and the elevators, oh my god, the
Oh
elevators.
god, I'm so sorry, but they felt
They
weird.
were the energy in the elevators, like, don't get me wrong, like, I'm not a huge fan of elevators in general, but I never have
Fun
I
fact, I
ever.
like to go to buildings and just ride the elevators up and down.
Yeah,
No, I
yeah.
don't. I hate
I'm
elevators.
I'm just like, I'm not usually that bothered by elevators, but I just did not like the
No.
elevators at the Fairmont. And if any staff are listening, like it has nothing to do with like cleanliness or anything like that.
No,
It was
nothing
the
to do with that.
energy.
It
It
was
was the
just
energy.
energy.
It
Just the
was it
energy.
was purely intuitive, like
Yeah.
nothing wrong with like the setting or anything like that. It was just the energy was just really really weird. So we got into the elevators, we went to our room. As soon as we got into our room, there we were met with the sweetest spirit named Rachel. And
Rachel!
she was so cute. I'm literally obsessed with Rachel. I wanted to put her in my pocket and take her home. She was so cute. She was a housekeeping staff and she immediately came up to us and was like, "Hello, I'm going to be your housekeeping staff during your stay." And like she was
Mhm.
showing us around the room and showing us where we could put our things. And she was telling us about herself, and like she was just such a sweetheart. And we
So
just
sweet.
she has a special place in our hearts. So she is just incredible. And she was just kind of telling us about, the place and kind of how it worked. And as we were getting settled in the room, that's when I started getting visions of things. And I was kind of taken aback by it because I was just kind of putting things away. And as I would be putting things away, it was like I this is going to sound so stupid, but the only way that I could describe this is like a "that's so Raven" moment where, like, you're just, like, sitting there and then you can't see anything else other than the vision that's in front of you. I would be, like, unloading my stuff, and then all of a sudden, I would just be sitting there staring at a wall, and Alyssa was like, "Are you okay?"
You
And
good?
I was like, "No, dude, like, I'm getting visions of this thing, and I don't know what it is." Basically, what I was seeing was this creature, like, it was for lack of a better way of explaining it, it looked similar to the creatures in Alien almost, but not quite. Like, I don't know how to explain it other than it just looked humanoid, but not human. And it was completely black. It just had a very elemental energy. So I assumed that it was some sort of like elemental creature, but it was a creature nonetheless. And I wasn't sure if it was an elemental or possibly like a poltergeist or something like that, because we have seen poltergeist activity come through in that kind of form before. So I wasn't discounting it. I was just kind of trying to make sense of it. But it would just show itself sometimes in this vision of being in like kind of more of what I would describe as like a like basement area near like some sort of tank, like a propane tank or like a big water heater tank is what it looked like. And I wasn't sure what I was seeing. So I was like, I don't know if it's even related to the building. It might be somewhere else down the street. Like we just don't know. So I kept it in mind and I mentioned it to Alyssa, but we just kind of like went on with our investigation from there.
Mhm.
But we did have to get dinner.
Yeah,
So
we
we went
did. We did.
downstairs.
So
We
we
went
did.
downstairs and we got dinner at the incredible restaurant
Yeah.
called Zoe's.
Oh,
And
so good.
oh, it was one of the best dinners I have ever had in my life.
It was so
It was
good.
so good, and the staff was amazing.
Yeah.
It was just a really, really incredible experience. So if you ever do go to the chateau, I do highly recommend getting dinner at Zoe's and experiencing the whole thing because it is so, so worth it. They
We were
even
on like
made
a date. It was like
it
romantic
was
as hell.
so great.
It
It
was
was so
so
great.
sweet. It
And
was
they
so sweet.
even made us like non-alcoholic mules, like Moscow
Mhm.
mules, and they were
God, they were
incredible.
so
They were
good.
so good, and I am honestly upset that I don't live closer and I can't do that, like, on a regular basis because they were so good.
It's delicious.
So 10 out of 10, do recommend the hotel.
Oh,
The
I was actually
funny
talking
thing
to my mom about paranormal investigating at the chateau, and she told me that she took me to that exact same restaurant when I was about 8 and was teaching me how like to use cutlery, like fancy
Oh
cutlery.
my gosh.
And I didn't even know. I remember I have the memory of, like, being told what fork and spoon and knife to use and when, and I knew that it was somewhere downtown Ottawa, but I couldn't remember where, and that's exactly where it was.
Oh my
So that's kind of
god.
fun.
I
Fun little
love that.
factoid.
And don't think that we weren't experiencing things at dinner because
Oh,
we
we
were.
were.
We
Oh, we
were.
were.
There were so many things happening at dinner. So I don't know if they'll ever change the seating arrangements, but if they don't, we were sat when you go through the initial foyer into the restaurant and you go through like the casual seating area, you get into the dining room. And so if you are facing the bar from the entry doors, it's the first small table to your right that we were sitting at. right beyond the stairs to the
Mhm.
upper level. And we were sitting there, and I was facing towards the hotel lobby. And to my right, through the glass doors, I kept seeing these legs. And at first I saw it and I like glanced over because I just thought it was a person, but I only saw legs. And I was like, that is not a human person because there was no torso, there was no upper body, it was just legs. And I was like, wow, okay. So I just laughed about it and just continued with dinner, but it
So
kept
random.
happening.
It kept
And
like on a cycle.
yeah, so I do believe that it was probably a recurring, or people usually call these
Uh,
residual
yep.
hauntings,
Yeah.
where it just replays itself. So I do think it was that, but I thought it was hilarious and it reminded me of the Fresno night crawlers, and I honestly was such a fan. So if you ever go to the restaurant, look for the legs.
Dude, it reminded me of that Family Guy episode where Peter just turns into 2 pairs of legs and his head, and they're like, "Do
Oh
those
my
legs
god.
go all the way?" Anyway, that's what I was thinking of the whole time, I just couldn't stop. But it was just so random, we were just like, "What in the actual." And then, so I was facing obviously the opposite because I was facing Arl, but, so I wasn't seeing the direction she was. I was, looking out towards, like, a window and, like, a semi-patio kinda looking area, I think, and even though the patio wasn't open or anything and there were real humans, peoples that were sitting down and having food and stuff, I also was seeing like spirits dancing to the music that was being played.
Mhm.
So there was this various, like, it would cycle through this various different types of music, and there would be certain ones where I would just see, like, I don't know, like it looked like maybe a married couple or something just dancing, just, and it was just so cute, and it was just like, this is sweet, this is so
It was.
sweet.
It
It was so
was.
sweet. But yeah, she got the legs and I got a dancing couple. But there were also like other, we were seeing other things as well. Like
Oh,
we were
yeah. Like, we
picking,
have a lot of guardians around
we do.
us,
Yeah.
and especially when we're doing, paranormal investigations or tuning into things like that, they tend to come through really strongly just to make
Hmm.
sure that they're kind of a mediator between us and the energies that we're picking
Yeah.
up on. And so we had a lot of activity from them in the restaurant, and to be honest, they were coming through so strongly that we kept mistaking the staff for our guardians.
It's true.
And I
It's
kept
so
looking
true.
over and being like, "Oh my god, I thought that was Astaroth, and it's not, it's the waiter."
Dude,
Like, it was,
there was one guy who I swear looked identical to Astaroth, and
oh my
like
gosh,
he
he
would walk
did.
past, and I'd be like, "Oh my god!" And I was saying to Arl, I was like, "It's as it, like for a second there, I was like, he physically manifested right next
Yes.
to us. Isn't that
Yes.
cool?" Like, and but
Yes.
dude, it was just wild. Like I just like
The poor staff probably thought we were such creepers because we kept staring at them, but
staring
I there were times where I was like, "Are you a real person or are you an invisible person in a real sense?" Like, I
at.
could not tell the difference. I felt so
It
bad.
was so, it was so
I
weird.
only could tell that it wasn't them when they started giving me this look of concern, and then I was like, "Oh shit, that's not like, that's an actual person."
Damn. And it was just, we were
Oh,
just so confused at that, but it was a lot of fun. It was a really good time.
it
So
was so much fun.
we planned afterwards to head up to the room after we finished eating, and we had the best dessert ever, by the way. I just want to like
We
shout out for
did,
the
we did.
dessert. So
But you gotta
good.
let the food settle. So we
Gotta let it
walked around
settle.
the hotel. We
Yeah.
decided that we were just gonna go on live stream and explore the hotel
Hmm.
and kind of get a feel for, the whole building as much as we could before we got into the initial investigation. So in the hotel, there's an area where they have a lot of different plaques and photos and things like that of the history of the chateau and the people who have visited and things like that. And so we went through that little gallery area
Hmm.
and just the
Yeah, we
whole,
did that on live stream. I remember that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And the footage that we have from that, the highlights, we will be putting on our social media just in case you want to
Yep.
see it. And I will do my best to have that go up at the same time this episode does. We were just going through that and it was so nice. Like the way that they have it set up is so beautifully done. It's set up in a really beautiful way
It
to where
is.
everything flows and is really
Yep.
easy to just take your time and take in the sights. The building itself is gorgeous,
Phenomenal.
beautiful architecture and
Truly, truly
beautiful
beautiful.
decor. Like it's so beautiful.
It's
I cannot.
absolutely stunning. It's just mind-numbingly beautiful. And a lot of people were commenting on that during the live streams, just how beautiful it was. But it's even more beautiful in person. It's just one of
It
those
is.
things
Videos
where
don't do it justice at
no,
all.
because you don't get
You
to
really got to go
see
there.
and experience.
Well, you don't know how big it is. Like it is so grand and
It
so
is, but it's intricate at the same time. It's
yes.
detailed and
Yes.
intricate, and
Mhm.
it's
There's so many little
tasteful.
details
Yeah, very
that you
tasteful.
just don't pick up on in
Yep.
video, and it just the videos honestly just don't do it justice, but it is a
Makes a lot of sense
beautiful
for
place.
why the famous people who would frequent the place
Absolutely.
would go there. It makes a lot of sense. I kinda
a
I
1000%.
understand now. I
I
totally
get
get
it now.
I
Yes.
understand. But, while we were walking around, there was I actually just recalled this. I saw, in the lobby area, there's, like, a little overhang area up at the top. Like, you go up some stairs,
Yes.
there's, like, a little
Yes.
peeping overhang
Mhm.
lounge area that you can see down into the lobby, and I did see a man and a woman waving, and so I
Yes.
waved back. I was like, "Hi!" And there's nobody up there. Like, well, there was for me,
I'm
but
sure that there were so many looks that we got from actual people who were like, "Oh my gosh, these people are losing their mind in a
they're
hotel lobby."
psychotic.
Yeah. So
But
the staff was beautiful. The people
yeah,
that were visiting there probably thought that we were crazy. So
yeah. I'm sure
it's
the
just
staff has dealt with a lot of kooky people, so we were probably just another one. They were like, "Oh, look at all these creepy people walking around waving at nothing." But yeah, so I
Oh.
saw the man and the woman, but I don't know that I saw them again after that. But
Mhm.
they were so happy. They were like,
Yes.
oh, they were like so I'm like waving my hands like you can see me. They were like, hello. Like, and I'm just like, hello. And they were
The
really
other
well dressed.
And the other thing was that we went down to the basement level because we were trying to find the area where I was seeing this vision. Like we were trying to find an area that kind of matched it, and honestly, I couldn't. If it is somewhere in that building, it has to be in an area where I just didn't have access to. Regardless, we were trying to find an area that kind of matched what I was seeing. So we were going down to the basement levels, and from the basement levels you can go to the turret stairs, which, if you're looking at the chateau from the outside, there is an area in the building where it's kind of this turret on the left side if you're looking at the front. And that is a staircase to each level of the building. And it's a beautiful staircase. It's kind of
Hmm.
different on each level, and it's original to the building. And you can go up from the basement all the way to the seventh floor. So we started going up that stairwell. The way that the stairs are set up, which I do want to mention because this is important for later as we go through what we experienced, each level is completely enclosed in glass. So
Hmm.
the only opening to the other floors is to the basement, right?
Hmm.
Everything else is enclosed, and the staircase is dead quiet. It is
Oh, it's
so
so
quiet as
quiet.
you're going up, like you could hear a pin drop.
Yeah.
It is nearly silent. So as we're going up the stairs, you can hear people in the basement like kind of coming in and out because the staff use the basement as their way to get into the building and things like that. So you can hear people, opening the doors and stuff like that. But we were going up the stairs, and I think when we got around the third or fourth floor, we heard whistling.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh, okay. Because we had been told by the staff that the stairwell was one of the more haunted places. So we
Yep.
wanted to check that out before doing the official investigation, just kind of get a good feel of it. So we did hear whistling, and we were like, oh, that must be the staff. Like we just kind of didn't really think about it much, but then we realized that we hadn't heard anybody come in from the doors. We hadn't heard anybody
Oh,
like walking around, and we thought they were going to come up the stairs because, staff, security or something would be walking around the building. They do their rounds, but they never came up. It was just, there was no one there. It
and
was
that's
just
why
whistling.
That's why it's important that we mention that it's enclosed and it's dead quiet,
Yes.
because if there's somebody walking, trust we would hear
You
it.
will hear it,
You will
yeah,
hear
because
it.
it's echoey too, like, the
Yep.
floors are marble in a lot of the stairwells, so it's echoey, and you can hear like, when we would be moving up the staircase, you could hear
Mhm.
us. So if
And there was
someone
no
was
vents or air
there was
exchange.
no vents. There was no air condition vents or heating vents in that stairwell.
Mm-mm.
It was completely enclosed, like, the air was actually kind of stuffy in there.
It was a
Like,
bit,
it
yeah,
was depending on the
stale.
floor, of course, but as you went up to the upper floors, like, after, like, the 2nd or 3rd floor, it started getting really stuffy because all of the
Mhm.
hot air goes up, right? So,
Yeah.
all of the hot air didn't have anywhere to go because there weren't any vents or anything like that. And that is something that we want to mention because later on we had experiences that would be
Mhm.
important for you to know that information about.
While we were walking around and looking at all of the various different plaques and the reliefs that were on the walls, that's where I was getting confirmation of the person that I was seeing playing the grand piano. There was a section of the hotel that used to be a ballroom gala room, I think. I think it
Yeah,
was a ballroom gala room, and there was
they had a band.
they had a photograph of the musicians that would play, so that everybody could dance, and
Hmm.
there was a massive grand piano with someone playing it, and I was like, "That's legit the piano I was seeing." Like, grand
Yeah.
pianos, you have a vision in your head of what a grand piano looks like, and just by the way, side note, this is a weird little side tangent, but I feel like it's important to mention this because it's such a weird thing, but my husband used to move grand pianos as his job. And one of the things that I have learned from him is that every grand piano is different and every one
Yes.
of them looks different and every one of them is unique. So the
Hmm.
one I was seeing in my vision was a perfect match to
Yes.
what I saw in the photo. And you're just going to have to take my word for it. I'm like hyper aware of how different grand pianos can look between and amongst each other. So I just like really want to make that like small little detail. It's just kind of like you learn things if your spouse or your significant other has like this long history or hobby or something.
Hmm.
I know a
It
lot
was the
about
same piano.
I know a lot about random shit about grand pianos. Anyway, so side tangent that I thought was kind of interesting. Also, too, while we were walking around and looking at the plaques, I did see the same colored man in his outfit, in his serving outfit, but he went towards a restaurant, and there's like two restaurants at the hotel.
Yeah,
There's
there's the more formal one,
mhm,
Zoe's, and then there's another one where they usually have, like, the breakfast in the morning and the
yeah,
brunch, and
yeah,
we didn't actually end up going to that one, but, yeah, it was closed by the time we got there because we got
yeah.
there later at night.
Yeah. And I saw him and I was so interested in following him, but he actually went into that closed off area into what looked to be the kitchen. So I was like, well, I can't just wander in and follow him because I
I'm
still you
just
have
gonna
to
saunter into this closed
just
area.
yeah, I was like, you got to be respectful of the sites that you're investigating. So
Yeah.
I didn't follow him in, and I actually never saw him again. But I did see him while we were looking at the various different reliefs on the wall because there is such a rich history at this site. So there was quite a bit of interesting stuff we saw. So
Yes,
anyway, just
and
I
in
wanted to
the
connect the two of
yeah,
what I was
and
picking
in the
up, and
basement too, I believe we saw the little boy.
we did in the
We
basement.
did.
We did see
Mhm.
the little boy, and he was he tried to lead us somewhere, and I think that's actually where he led us, is one of the areas where the staff that we later bumped into as well said that that area was kind of also said to be sort of spooky, and I was like, that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
But we did see the little boy. And if you remember from the beginning of this podcast in my intro, you might remember where I said that there were reports of a little child,
Mhm.
a little kid running around. So that also is super interesting and checks out. And also at the beginning of the podcast, I mentioned that people had reported hearing the whistling, which is also
Yes.
something that we experienced in
Mhm.
the hallway. Sorry,
Yes.
in the stairwell.
Yes. In the turret.
In the turret.
In the turret. as we walked through the hotel and just kind of got a feel for it, we went back up to the room and we started a spirit box session because we wanted to just kind of get a feel of the spirits that were coming through, if there were any that would kind of give us some information about themselves or the area or where we should be going next. And we kind of wanted to ask about the different things that the staff had told us about, but also about this creature that I kept picking up on. So we did start a spirit box session, and what was frustrating is that we would have all of these spirits come forward. Now, at
Mhm.
first, we didn't really have anybody come through, but Rachel was
She
so
was
sweet,
so
was so sweet. We're gonna give like so many like stand moments for Rachel in this podcast. We're sitting there and we weren't really having a whole lot of spirits come forward. Like there was a lot in the room,
Yeah.
but they wouldn't talk.
Yeah.
And so I was like, Rachel, are they uncomfortable? And she was like, oh, well, I think they just need, permission. And so we were like, would you be comfortable like kind of bringing them forward for us? And then there was a ton of spirits
So
talking.
many. There were English
So
ones,
many.
accented
There was
ones, and
French
French
ones.
ones. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So many, and for those who don't know this, Ottawa and, like, Parliament is directly on the border of Gatineau, Quebec. Canada as a whole is a bilingual country for English and French are the 2 main, languages, but in Gatineau, the primary language is French, so we were picking up and I love this about it because spirit boxes move through frequencies, AM and FM frequency, depending on which one you choose, or it's a combination of of both. So the interesting thing is French spirits who didn't know how to speak English were able to tune into the French radio that is
Mhm.
available in the area. So we were
Mhm.
picking up, and I speak French, so I was able to pick up on certain words, and some of the people in the live stream were picking up on certain words as well. And thanks to Rachel, we started getting quite a host of different spirits coming through on the spirit box during the live stream. And at
Yes.
that point it wasn't that we were trying to get more, we were trying to narrow it down to who could tell us, who could
The
give us a
most.
name and like go from
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, well, because what was frustrating is that we would have all these spirits stepping forward who would introduce themselves
Mhm.
and tell us their names, and then they would seemingly move out of the way and let someone else forward who would
Yeah.
tell us their name and then tell us like, you know, their age, and then another person would come in. And we were
Yeah.
kind of confused as to why we couldn't have like a conversation with someone
Yeah.
because typically we were able to, in past experiences, have a conversation that was ongoing with one of the
Yes.
spirits. And you would
Yeah.
have a little bit of spirits coming in here and there, but for the most part, you would have a consistent voice coming through speaking
Mhm.
with you and giving you information. So we were trying to find like the spirit that was going to kind of be that person for us to kind of be that mediator between us and the spirits of the building. So we were trying to talk with Rachel. We were trying to talk with, I believe there was like a spirit named like Mike or something. And so there was just a lot of spirits coming through, but we could never get past their age because
No.
they would just stop talking after
Stop.
that. And so we were like, this is really weird. So we were
Yeah.
trying to figure out what they did at the hotel.
Mhm.
And at the point where we would ask them what their role was or how long they had been there or what they did, what if they worked there, they wouldn't tell us. And we
No.
couldn't ever get past that, my name is XYZ, and then this is my age. And
Yeah.
then they would go silent, and we couldn't figure out why. And we're like, oh, well, I think they're just shy. Maybe they're unsure of how to interact with us because this was new. Like we were still getting to know the spirits of this building. And
Yep.
we figured that that was just something that they were just kind of getting used to us.
Feeling us
So we
out,
didn't,
sending out the
yeah.
little feelers.
Right. So we didn't really think anything of it, but it just got more and more frustrating
Oh,
because
yeah.
the more we tried to tune in, the more we were just kind of getting this kickback for seemingly no reason. But we were doing this spirit box session and we took a little bit of a break and then we came back to it because we got to a point where we started asking Rachel,
Yep.
since she seemed to be the one that was able to answer us the most about this creature that I was picking up on. And as we were asking her about this creature, we started getting this ice cold
Oh.
air in the room.
Oh, I just got a
Like
shiver again
absolute
just remembering it.
frigid air.
Ooh, it
And
was so cold.
it was so cold, and we didn't have the air on at that
Nope.
point, if I can remember correctly,
No,
or
we
if we
didn't.
did, it was like the heater. Like it was just, it didn't make sense that we would be getting this frigid air coming in. We didn't even have the window open.
Nope.
Like it was just coming
And
from
yo, in
seemingly
case
nowhere.
y'all don't know, their doors at the hotel are real wood,
They're so
hardcore,
heavy.
heavy doors. Like you can guarantee there's no draft coming in from one of them doors. Like that's like a
Yeah.
bunker door,
Well,
dude.
because the hallways of the hotel were honestly kind of stuffy too.
Yeah,
So like we knew that the air that we were feeling wasn't coming from the hallway, cuz even if it was, it
yeah,
would have been kind of room temperature for us, if not warmer. So
yeah.
it was just really odd, and we started getting this sense of like this creature coming into the room with us, to the point where it we were seeing it in between Alyssa and I on the bed.
And
Now
it was
at
being
this
picked up on the spirit box.
Yes.
The
Yes, we were
sound
having really weird sounds coming through on the spirit box, and all of the spirits went completely silent.
completely silent. Oh,
There was
I'm
nobody
getting
talking.
goosebumps just remembering again. Woof.
So we're
Woo!
sitting there. So we turn off the spirit box to try to like kind of bring the energy back down, and Alyssa started channeling Artemis.
Yeah, well, here's the reason why. Here's the reason why. So, I'm not gonna lie, Arl and I fucking love if we are freaked out by something, we wanna go to it. If that
We
hallway
will
looks creepy,
pursue it to no end.
we're
It's
running
probably
into it.
we have a white girl syndrome,
We do.
okay? We will run towards things that we should not be running towards, because we are the dumb bitches in the movie that are like, "Oh
We're
my
gonna die
gosh, what
first.
is it?" Yeah, we are
Yeah,
going to absolutely die first.
but
So
at least it's dying a
just
good death because it's
just
in
know that
pursuit of the ghosties.
whenever we're sharing information about our paranormal investigations, do as we say, not as we do, okay?
Yeah, okay, yeah,
Just
please, yeah. If you
just
feel like it's a bad idea, like
just
you are
don't. Just
yeah, but
don't.
for us, we're like, it feels bad, we're going to it.
Right,
So,
because I feel comfortable, like, we know how
yeah.
to navigate stuff like that. For example, this is, like, so out there, but if we were to have something trying to attack us or,
Mhm.
like, possess us in some way, like, we know how to prevent that, we know how to navigate that situation because we have enough experience to do so.
Mm.
But I'm not gonna lie, please don't contact us saying that you're, like, possessed by a spirit because you did what we did and
Yeah,
just
please
started,
don't.
like, doing what we were doing, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, just do as we say, not as we do. Thank you.
But this entity, as it was coming forward, and we noticed it was. But I do want to give this context because there were a fair number of people in the live stream that were taking note of this weird, high pitched squealing sound
Yes.
that would be coming through the spirit box, and it would happen, and then it would be silent, 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 and then it would happen, and then it would happen, and then silent. So it was just like getting progressively closer together time wise
Mhm.
and clustered, and we just weren't getting any spirits. And then when that coldness came through, we felt the creature behind us. And prior to the creature coming in, one of the things that Rachel was mentioning was that there was two of them in the hotel.
Yes. Yes,
A
there was a
big
big
one
one and a small one.
and a small one. And Arl, we believe, was we because we were feeling sensing the small one in the room with us, but Arl
Mhm.
was still sensing the big one not in the room with us. So we
Yeah.
were talking about this on the live stream. We were like, we don't think this is the big one. We think this is the small one. And we felt it behind us. And I refused to look behind me. I was like, it ain't gonna happen. I don't
Yeah.
want to fucking look at this thing in the face. But didn't this bugger get right in between us because Arl and I were sitting side by side on the edge of the bed, on the end of the bed with the stream going and the spirit box on a little table in front of us. And this thing was just right dead in between our heads and was breathing so
Mhm.
heavy, and its presence was so eerie, and
It was
I
very uncomfortable.
it was
It
uncomfortable.
It was, I wouldn't say that it was negative.
No, I
I
wouldn't say
feel like
negative.
negative would be too strong of a word and too
Yeah,
specific, but
yeah,
it did feel extremely uncomfortable and very much like we shouldn't be where we were.
yeah. I didn't we didn't at least for me, I didn't get a sense of danger from it. It
No,
was more
no.
like a warning. I felt like it was more
Yeah.
like like,
It
hey.
was almost like if you were to back a dog into a corner and it
Mhm.
starts growling at you, that's what it felt like.
Yeah,
It
it
felt almost
felt
like
like
we
that.
were putting it in a position where it had to feel like it was starting to have to defend itself. So
Mhm.
it started acting aggressively, but it
Yeah.
itself didn't feel aggressive. It
Yes.
felt more like it was not comfortable with what we were doing.
Yes.
So, but at the
So it gets in
time,
between us, and
yeah.
we're just like, and I'm so fucking uncomfortable. And I'm just like, I'm like twitching, and I'm like trying to, and I'm like moving my head around, and then Artemis came through on the spirit box.
Mhm.
Remember that? Remember she came
Mhm.
through, and she was standing in the room, and as Ariel was talking on the live stream, I nudged her and I was like, Artemis is channeling. She wants to channel. Artemis is channeling, because she knew how uncomfortable I was. So she's one of my patrons. She's one of the guardians that was with me during this, to help with like protection and kind of mediating some of the energies that were coming in and out. But I also didn't really let her block everything, obviously, because I'm trying to investigate. So she felt it necessary that my discomfort was so palpable that she was like, I'm gonna full on trance channel right now, and you're just gonna move the fuck over. And didn't and then after that, I don't know. I only know what Arl told me and what people on the live stream told me. But at that point, I was so fucking uncomfortable. I was like, I don't even care. I don't even care if Santa Claus channels through me right now. I just want to get away from this thing breathing in my right
Mhm.
ear. Like, go ahead. And she took over.
Yeah. So while she was channeling, she was like, "Hey, like, let's take a break. Let's get some snacks." Because at that point, like, it had been a few hours since we had eaten dinner. So what we did was we ended up ordering some food in and just kind of talking with people on the live stream. The energy really died down after that. Once we turned off the spirit box and just kind of kept to ourselves for a little bit, the energy pretty much immediately dissipated. Like
Mhm.
it went back to baseline really quick. The other thing is too that if the frigid air had been due to the room temperature or us having the air conditioning on or something like that, it would have taken longer than a few seconds for it to just go back to normal.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
that it went back to baseline so quickly.
Yeah.
So after that, we ended up, I did walk downtown with Artemis to look for food. And then we came back and we door dashed something because we just couldn't find anything that was like open. So that was when Alyssa came back and we ate some stuff and then we continued investigating. And in the second part of our investigation, we really wanted to focus on the stairwell because that was where we were having
Mhm.
seemingly the most experiences.
Mhm.
So we went to the stairwell with the spirit box on our floor first, like between the fifth and the sixth floor, because we were like, oh, well, if the seventh floor is supposedly like one of the more haunted ones, we'll get as close as we can. So we
Mhm.
ended up sitting in the stairwell with the spirit box, and we sat there in silence for the first part of it before we turned on the spirit box, and we heard the whistling again.
Yep.
And I'm so excited because we did get the
We
whistling
picked it
on
up.
video. I'm so
Yes!
excited. So
Evidence.
you will be able to hear that too. But the cool thing is that in the video, you'll be able to hear me say, "We know it's not the security because we heard them close the door."
Yeah.
And you could hear like security coming in, like walking through the basement and then walking out the back door
Mhm.
to the parking lot for the staff. And we heard someone, I can't say that it was security, but at the time we assumed that it was. We heard security walking through the basement and then out the door, and then it was silent.
Mhm.
Right? Again, you can hear the footsteps because it's going to echo.
Yep.
But it was totally silent and then we just started hearing the whistling.
Mhm.
And it was so cool. I'm so glad that we picked up that
I'm
on
so
video.
happy to,
Yeah.
because that was
So
something that we were just like so intent on picking up on
mhm.
the video, because it's something that we had heard when we first arrived.
Yes.
So we
Yes.
just really, I'm so happy we have
I'm
that.
so glad we got it.
Oh, and
So
I do want to mention this too. During the live stream, I just like a little fun factoid to throw in there. We were asking like what spirits are coming
oh
through.
my god. oh my gosh.
And I
Rachel was
can't.
like, the horses.
The horses.
And we were like, "I'm sorry, what?" And she was like, "There's
Excuse me?
horses." And we were like, "How many?" And she was like, 11.
Whose horse is that? We were
Whose
just
horse
like
is that?
we were like, "What the hell? 11 horses?"
Oh my
And then we were, like, kinda talking about it later, and we were like, "Okay, well, that kinda makes sense because
god. Right.
obviously during the time that this was built, there would have been horses
Yes.
probably taken care of
Yeah,
on
there
site or
had to
going
have
to and
been some
from."
sort of, like, little stable
There
downstairs or
must
something
have
like that,
been,
but it
like,
was so funny. It
so
was so
random.
random. Yes.
And now, like, every time we say, "Whose horse is that?" I'm just always
Yes.
thinking of the spirit horses at the Fairmont.
So if
There's
you ever
11
visit the
horses.
Fairmont, visit the ghost horses,
Oh my
the
god.
horsey ghosties. But yeah, so we're in this stairwell listening to this spirit box. And again, we're having all these spirits come forward
Yep.
and we're trying to get information. We have these names come forward, we have ages,
Mhm.
and then they stop.
Stop.
And it was in I'm not gonna lie, it was infuriating.
I'm
It
not gonna
was
lie either. It was
so
super frustrating.
frustrating because we kept feeling like, "Oh, this is the one, like, we're gonna get closer," and it kept just being this
Mhm.
halted information, and we couldn't figure out why, and then we started getting voices through. I believe it was Rachel, if I can remember correctly. If
Yeah.
not, it was one of the spirits we were talking to at the time that said, "He's coming," and
Yes.
we assumed that they were talking about the creature, okay?
Yes.
Because this was what we were expecting. And
Mhm.
after they had said, "He's coming,"
Mhm.
then it was that frigid air,
Frigid.
just
Cold.
absolutely ice cold air, just
Freezing.
blowing down from the upper floors, which is weird because remember, it's stuffy in the turret staircase. As far as we know, there was nothing open at the top.
Mhm.
And all of the upper floors were fairly stuffy.
Yep.
They were not, like, super air conditioned. So, we are, like, freezing in this stairwell all of a sudden. We went from sweating to freezing,
Yeah.
and we're like, "What is going on?" And, of course, the spirit box goes silent. It was just this weird energy. But here's an important note that I wanna mention that helped us kind of figure out what was going on later on. We did not see the creature.
In the
We
stairwell.
only felt the frigid air
Yep.
and the weird vibes of being watched.
Yep.
Like intense. Like, you know that feeling on the back of your neck when you
Mhm.
feel that you have eyes on you, but you don't know where they're coming from.
Mhm.
That feeling times 10, just so amplified,
Yep.
so intense of being watched. Like someone was just kind of like, absolutely not.
Yep.
You are not doing this. You need to go.
There was a sense
So,
of hostility,
yes, it was very
anger.
much like, "Not this again.
Yeah,
Stop what
like,
you're doing."
"Stop doing what you're doing, you stupid bitches." Like
Yeah, it was not a happy like, energy at
and we
all, and
picked
it
up
was
on
more
this and
and it was
listened
much
to
more
it.
hostile than what we felt with because the creature that's the thing, is, like, with
Yeah.
the creature, we didn't really feel like it was hostile. We felt like
No.
it was more of like, "Hey, just so you know, like, we're uncomfortable with this,"
Yes.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas this energy felt hostile.
It
This
did.
one felt
It
even
did.
more intense
Yeah.
and just really bad. Like, it just felt
Yeah.
really bad. And it was just take our word for it. It was not good. It
No.
was bad. 10
It
out of
was
10, do
less
not
than
recommend.
ideal. No.
It was not nice.
F.
So,
Yeah,
yeah, it
no
was
good.
it was bad. So we kinda hightailed out of the staircase, and we went to the 4th floor because we were like, "Oh, we haven't been to the 4th floor yet." But I the 4th floor,
Oh, no, the
okay?
4th floor.
Oh god. So we
Jeepers.
were on the 5th floor, which is said to be one of the more active floors, but I would argue that the 4th floor has some stuff going on because we
Dude,
went down to the 4th
yes.
floor, and let me tell you, that floor is really uncomfortable. It is
So uncomfortable.
very
Here's the
uncomfortable.
thing, though. The 5th floor that we were on is the one that Hayes is known to frequent, and we did
Mhm.
see Hayes in the hallway, like, he was
Yeah.
standing outside of our door, like, we would see him just in the hallway when we would be coming and going from the room. But in the 4th floor, there was no Hayes.
Yeah.
There was no haze. He was never on that floor, and that floor felt so bad.
It
It
felt
felt
so
so
bad.
bad. We
It
were
was
just, and
it was
because it
this
felt
sense of
uncomfortable, we
yes.
wanted to be there. We were like,
Yeah.
let's hunker down. And this was like
Mhm.
what, like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the
Oh my god, it
morning.
was so late.
It,
But we got in the turret staircase again because
yeah,
we were like, "Okay, we gotta go back in. We gotta go back in."
yep,
So we went back into the staircase and we sat between at the landing of the 4th floor
hmm,
and had the staircase up to the 5th above us and then the staircase down to the 3rd below us.
hmm,
And we sat there and we did a spirit box session again. And
yep,
again, we had spirits coming through and sharing their name, sharing their age, and then going silent.
yep.
And then, of course, as we would have like 2 or 3 spirits come through, this frigid air would come down
It
again.
just
And
came
that,
right down again.
yes, and that energy would amplify again. And it was so frustrating. And like I'm sure we got it on live stream. We were just like, this is so frustrating. Like, this is so annoying.
Yeah.
So at this point, we were like, you know what? We need to go to bed. Like, we need to just call it a night. I don't think we're going to get anywhere. So we packed it up, went down, like, went off of live stream, went back to our room, and we're just kind of hanging out with Rachel, talking about her life and things like that, how she came here and getting to know her, and then talking about the investigation and what we got. And I we both kind of had this moment where I was like, Alyssa, we're missing something. Like,
Yeah.
something is wrong. Something is not adding up. I was like, first of all, why didn't the creature come through in the stairwell with the cold air? And she was like, yeah, that was weird. And I was like, yeah, it should have come through with the stairwell stuff because that's what we were feeling in the room. And if it was the creature would have been there too,
Yeah.
as this at the same time as this frigid air. So why didn't it come through the second time and only the first? She was like, I don't know. And I was like, okay, we're turning back on the spirit box. So we turn back on the spirit box. We have more spirits come through, introduce their name, introduce their, of course, there's a frigid
Yep.
air gust
Yep.
in my living room.
Of course.
We
I've been
have the
chilly. I
spirit,
had to put on a sweater.
yep. We have the spirits come through, tell us their name, tell us their age, and then go silent again. And
Again.
it was just spirit after spirit after spirit who is coming through and introducing themselves and not being able to share more than that. And at this point, it's like a couple hours from daylight. So we're like, you know what? We're just going to go to bed and
It
we're
was
just going to
around
talk
6
about
a.m.,
this.
give or
Oh, it
take.
was late.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we ended up going to sleep. I didn't really have any experience during like, I didn't have any dreams or anything, but Alyssa did.
I did.
Alyssa had a dream.
I did. And Arl's really smart for doing this, but right when we woke up, she asked me, "Did you have any dreams?" And then she pulled out her phone and recorded me as I was telling her what my dream was, and I didn't even know she was recording it. But I was just like, "Yeah." And if you didn't record it and we didn't talk about it, I probably would have forgot. It's one of those ones that
Mhm.
you just remember and you're just on
Yeah.
the edge of forgetting. And so right when I woke up, she asked me that, which was smart from an investigative point of view.
Record everything, document everything before
Everything.
and after the investigation, at least a day, if not a couple hours before and after the investigation, because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
if you are intuitive, this is extra important because your intuitive information that comes through your experiences the day before and the day after the investigation is going to give you more insight into what happened and what you're picking up on. So
Mhm.
it's really important to document those things. So I did pull out my camera and she had had a dream of a woman who was shushing her.
Yep.
She
Literally
was like,
shushing.
shh.
She had her
Yep.
finger up to her mouth and she was looking me dead in the face and I could
Mhm.
see her full body
She
from
had a
top to bottom.
very tight bun,
Tight
like
bun,
a
tight bun.
tight, yep.
Yep. And she's just went shh. And I was like, "Gee, okay."
You're like,
And then I
"Okay."
woke up, and then
Yes.
after I told Arl, Rachel was right next to me, and she was like, "Good morning. Is there
Yep,
anything
as
I can
soon as
do
I
for
woke up,
you?"
she was like, "Can I help you? Can I get you anything?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, no,
She
like,
was
you're
so
so
sweet.
sweet." And she was like, "Does your friend need anything?" And I was like, "Oh, she's still sleeping, like, we'll let her sleep a little bit longer." But we were kind of getting up for the morning and just kind of talking about, how we slept and things like that. And we were like, you know what? Let's do another spirit box session. Let's try to see if things are different in the daytime.
Yep.
So we tried to get something, and honestly, not a lot came through. The next morning, we had like one or two spirits come through. Again, name, age, and then silence. And we were
Silence.
like, you know what? This is just not going to work. This is not the way to go about it. So I was sitting there and I was like, Alyssa, what if the cold air was not connected to the creature at all?
Yep.
What if this is something completely different? So, what we were kind of coming to the conclusion of was that one, we weren't going to be able to figure it out in that one visit, which is really
No.
unfortunate because I wish that I could have had a week or two there, like
Yeah.
just to really thoroughly investigate. Fairmont, if you want to, like
Want to
sponsor us,
sponsor a paranormal
yeah,
investigation? We will be there. Don't
we
you worry
will be
about it.
there. But we really wanted to like have so much more time there than we did because in that short amount of time and having that many experiences, we
Yep.
knew that we'd be able to get to the bottom of things much more if we had more time, but we were so limited. And so we were sitting there and we were like, okay, what we think that it is something, an energy, a poltergeist, if you want to call it, an entity, a egregore, a whatever you want to call it, some sort of protective force or energy of the building that is keeping its secrets
Yes.
and keeping it safe. And it's not the creature, it's not the spirits, it's the building.
Remember, in the stairway, the voice said, "He's coming,"
Mhm.
not "it's coming."
Mhm.
So we thought the "he" was in reference to the creature.
Right.
But we started thinking about, is it potentially like a humanoid or a spirit?
Right.
And
And we did think that it might have been haze, and we
we thought,
asked,
yeah,
but
we
we got
thought.
no's. We
Same
got
with
like
Wilfred Laurier.
mhm.
We asked if it was him and we got no. And it just, we weren't feeling like it was any of those prominent figures
Right.
that like
Anything that
everybody
we
knows
could
about.
immediately think of was a no. And we were really getting confused because we were like, this
Mhm.
doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But we just think that from what we experienced and from what we gathered in our investigation, there has to be some sort of protective barrier put in place, which we talked about would make sense because, as conspiracy theory as this may sound, we are very aware that there are intuitive people within the government who
Yes.
work for the government who help to protect energy. And because of that, we really do feel that because this building was used for meetings of government officials, that at some point they probably had someone put up some sort of protection around the building energetically to help keep that information in the building so that
Mhm.
if you were tuning in intuitively from, some sort of source that they didn't want that information going to, you wouldn't be able to tune in.
We started kind of putting the puzzle piece together with the "he's coming," not "it's coming," and that the
Mhm.
creature wasn't coming into the staircase when the cold air would come. The anger and the hostility versus the creature, which was more of a warning thing. There was a difference of the energy signatures. We were starting to formulate a theory. Perhaps the reason why we kept getting block over and over and over again when we would start to get to know the spirits or try to get to know the spirits, especially when we would ask them what their role was at the
Mhm.
hotel. Like if they worked there and if they did, what did they do? And that would be when things would start to get funky again.
Yeah.
We started to think that perhaps there is a blockage, which is something that we picked up on the way there at
Yeah.
the very
That
beginning.
energy of secrecy
Secrecy,
and reservation and very selective with who it lets in its
super
doors
conservative.
energetically and intuitively. And because most buildings, you're able to kind of pick up on the history, you're able to pick up on the energy. And it really was that the building, which granted, every building, you can kind of feel the energy of the building itself,
Mhm.
right? The building itself has a sentience to it.
Oh, and this
And
is based off of animism, by the way. What Arl's talking
yeah,
about is a perspective of animism.
yeah. And that is something that I feel with pretty much everywhere I go. Like, it doesn't matter if it's a Walmart or an apartment building or a
Mhm.
single story, family house. Everything has like a sentience to it because there are people residing in it and things happening within it. Same reason why I name all my cars. Like, there's a sentience to things. And this building was no different. And when you have buildings where the sentience of the building could be tuned into and the building could give information, you gotta mark, like, you have to regulate it in some way. And what better way than to close it off and lock it down
Yep.
intuitively?
Yep. Like, it just felt like there's something, separate from the creature that is, like,
Yes.
an active block of just the secrets and the history and just so much to do, like, just information, just doesn't want
Mhm.
anything to get out and just doesn't want it to be shared, and then similarly with the dream of the woman literally shushing me, I was
Yeah.
just like, there's
Well,
just
and the dirt that I had picked up on the way to, the building, Artemis had talked to me when she was channeling through about how that was related to the creature, that the creature was an elemental being of the land, which would make
right,
sense
right.
of why I was picking up on the dirt and maybe why I wasn't getting anything about the creature until I got into the building and got within its bubble, right? But
Yeah.
I just found it to be very interesting, and I do think that that's probably why Alyssa picked up on the ice, because ice is something that you have to wait to thaw, you have to kinda work your way through. I
Mhm.
do think that if we had more time, I do think that we would be able to make progress in having the building trust us enough to let
Yeah,
us have some information, but I think if you're just coming in for a quick visit, you're tuning in,
yeah.
without any kind of warm up, if you will, I think the building is gonna lock itself down and be like, "Yeah, no, like, you're not getting
You're
anything."
just passing through. You're not
Yeah.
we're not trusting you or something like that. Like, it just I really truly would love for us to be able to go back to the Fairmont and really give it another fair shake and
Mhm.
return to even the same room. It would be great to see Rachel again.
Yeah.
And just really be able to investigate again with the theory that we now have.
Yes.
And I mean,
Yeah, because at the
hopefully,
time we got the theory, like, we were pretty much on our way out.
no, we were
Like,
pretty
we were
much on
just
our
like,
way out, yeah.
"Ah."
And the
Yeah.
thing too is that for all the folks that were following along the live streams and the videos that we were posting while we were investigating, we never really did get an opportunity to give you what our conclusion was. So this is basically what we came to together, just reviewing all of the experiences that we had and the information that we garnered and some of the finer details that came about over our various tune-ins, both clairvoyantly and through the spirit box and intuitively. There's just we really truly feel like we were going into that investigation with the assumption that it wouldn't be that difficult, honestly,
Yeah.
to get
Yeah.
information or to have a conversation. And then we were kind of approaching it in a way where we were expecting the creature to be the problem,
Mhm.
and it just wasn't. And so now that we're kind of we've got a new theory, it would be nice to be able to get back and kind of go
Yeah.
about it in a different way and see what comes of it. But it's not that we weren't. And but there's also I also want to throw this out there in case for those who this is your first time hearing any episode of Arl and I. We are clairvoyant mediums and death witches, and we work with spirits and we see spirits and have since we were kids, and we're very polite to spirits. Like, there is at
Oh,
no
yeah.
point where like
No,
they
no,
weren't
no, no.
blocking us because we're assholes. Like, this has nothing to do with that,
Yeah.
because we were very polite. We
And it's
respect
so
spirits.
important to be polite and respectful of the spirits of a space.
Mhm.
Like, you don't wanna be going in and, like,
We're the
there
Frodo
is
Baggins of the investigative world. We will go to Mount Doom in Mordor,
we
and
will be so
we
polite.
will give you the ring. Like, we are seriously so nice to spirits because we respect them, and they are
Well, to me, they're just invisible people. You
Well,
know,
that's
they're
literally like they used to be
yeah.
people. So it's like,
Yeah,
why would
they're
you treat them any
invisible
different?
people, and I would never go up to someone and be like, "Answer me, fool."
No,
Like,
like
I
that's ridiculous.
yeah, that's so
So
rude and
rude.
so ridiculous. I would never approach spirit any differently than how I approach
No,
people. And,
period.
respect is given until it's taken away because of a situation. But
Yep.
even then I try to understand why. And I think that's such an important approach to paranormal investigation in general.
Hmm.
And I am glad that more people are adopting that way of approaching things. But there are still examples out there of paranormal investigation that really do make it to where people are just under the assumption that you can walk in somewhere and just start interrogating spirits. And
Like as
there's
if they owe you something.
right.
They really
And
don't.
they don't, and that's the thing, like, we went into this investigation knowing that we might not get any information at all,
Mhm.
but we had assumed that there would be information that
Yeah.
came through because we approach things respectfully, and it's something where we gave the spirits option to come to us.
Yeah.
It wasn't that we were like, "Come talk to us." We said, "If there
Nothing
is
forceful.
anybody
Yeah.
who is wanting to come speak with us, we would love to talk with you." And that's the way to approach it because you always want to give them the option. You never want to force. And thankfully, Rachel was there and able to be such a great mediator and such a wonderful little host to us.
Man,
And
it would be so cool to have like staff directory of every single person who's ever worked there and see if
right?
we can find Rachel on
Yes.
it. That'd be so
I would
cool.
love that.
Because
I
she
would
did
love
work
that.
there. She was a
Yes.
housekeeper there and she
Mhm.
did pass
Mhm.
while working there. N-
Yes.
so they would, but that's assuming that there would be those staff directories from back then or whatever. Like
Right,
that's not
right.
something that we dug into or necessarily have the resources to access or anything like that, but it
Yeah.
just fun to think about. But like honestly, I wanted to give that little insider into how we approach spirit because I
Mhm.
think that's really important context for why I think it was so strange for us to not get
Yes.
anything past an age or something very, very superficial, because
Mhm.
that's just not how spirit interacts with us typically, given that we approach with the utmost respect and, never demand anything of them. And only the ones that are comfortable and want to speak with us will come through. And there was clearly no shortage of spirits that were eager to
Oh,
speak
there
with
was
us.
so many. There was so
There were
many.
so
Every time we
many.
turned on the spirit box, there was, like, so many spirits coming through. So, when we figured that there was no other way for us to get information through our means, um, we started a little mission. We s So I have I have a house
Ghosty
ghost.
covert ops mission.
I have a house ghost. She's only been with me for maybe like, I don't know, a month and a half. No, it's been longer than that, probably about like 2 or 3 months. And her name is Ketra. And she was actually from a client's house. When I was talking with a client for a paranormal consultation, this client was having some trouble with some spirits in their house. And Ketra is one of the spirits from that house, and she was really distressed being in that house because they had done some renovations, and somehow she felt stuck in one area of the house that was more of like an old area that had been renovated, and she didn't really know how to get out of it. So it wasn't that she was actually stuck. She had a perception of being stuck and she didn't know how to get out. So I was like, what if I just have her stay with me? Like, what if I just ghosty babysit for a little bit? You can see what it's like to have the house without her energy in it. And she can be well taken care of here at my house until we're ready to decide what happens?
Yep.
So she came to my house and has been here ever since. And she's kind of become this like Not because I forced her to. I've given her, the information, like, you can leave at any time. You don't have to stay here. She's like, no, I like it here. Like, I'm okay. But she has kind of become a mediator in a way to other spirits that come in. Like, she actually woke me up the other day. I had a nudge and she was like, Ariel, there's someone here. And I was like, oh, okay, okay. Well, it's, 1 in the morning, so I'm gonna go to bed. And she was like, oh, what do I do? Like, they're here and they want to talk to you. And I was like, they can wait until tomorrow. And, they did. But of course, as soon as I woke up, she was like, hey, here's the spirit. They need your help. And I was like, okay, thank you
It was
so
so
much,
funny
Kendra.
too because when Arl came to stay with me, she was just in the house in my house. Like she
She
came
was
with
just
Arl. She came with
traveling
Arl to
ghosting.
Canada. She came she flew all the
She
way.
flew all the way to Canada.
And she came, I
Um,
think she was just randomly standing in my bedroom when I was giving
yeah,
you the tour of the house.
yeah, and I was like,
And
"Katra, why are you standing here?" And she was like, "I don't know. I thought it was pretty." I was
so
like,
so
"Okay."
she was just kind of like here in the house while Arl was here. So
Yeah.
she was
So we
top of
put her to
mind.
work. I
She was
was
top
like,
of mind when we were
yeah,
investigating.
and I was like, "Katra, would you be okay with maybe, like, making some friends with the ghosty staff and getting to know the place a little bit and then, like, letting me know what you find out?" And she was like, "Yeah." So I left her. I left her at the chateau. I
let me
left
say
her at the
let me say
chateau.
Keitra was very happy to
She was
assist.
excited about it. I
She
This
was.
was not like, "No, Katra, you can't follow us." Like, she willingly, like, went there and she was like, "Yeah,
Yes.
I'll be here." And she was there for, like, I don't know, a
So
week? She was a while. It was after I got home from Canada
yeah,
that I
because
was like,
she
"Oh,
didn't come
shit, where's
back
Katra?"
when before you left. Like she
Yeah,
was still not here before you
yeah.
left.
So I came home and I was like, "Oh, shit, I left Katra behind." And so I was like, "Kitra," and she, like, of course, showed up, and she's like, "Hey," and I was like, "Did did you find anything?" And she was like, "About what?" And I was like, "Kitra." I was like, "Where have you been?" And she was like, "I don't know." And I was like, "We left you at the chateau, like, the chateau?" And she was like, "Oh, yeah." And I was like, "Did you find out anything?" And she was like, "No, I don't remember anything." And I
Yep.
was like, interesting. So
How interesting.
apparently it is also blocked to ghosties.
Which I think is wild. Like
That
I
is
think
wild.
I do find that wild. And it's just that
Like,
block
I
is
I do
so
have to
good.
say, if it is accurate, if our theory is accurate and it was locked down by some practitioner at some point in time, they did a fucking
Fucking
good
good job.
job.
So good.
Like,
So good.
if there is a ghost of a practitioner out there who did that, good on you, because you did an amazing job. But
Yeah.
I mean, of course, it's a theory. We don't know for sure if that
If
is the
someone
case.
was hired to do that, they earned
Right.
their coin,
Oh, a
dude.
thousand
Like,
percent. A
toss a
thousand
coin to
percent.
that witcher, because god
Yeah.
damn. Like,
Hmm.
impressive, very impressive. Which
Yes.
honestly, based on our theory that we talked about before, it makes sense that it would be like
That makes the most sense in my brain. But
heavy.
honestly, I want to hear all of your theories. Like,
Yes,
if
we
any
do.
of you out there have theories about what it could be, let us know, because I am
Please.
so curious to hear about different theories that you all have. Because that was the only theory that we could come up with at the time and that makes sense to us when we look at it from what we were able to gather. But if you have ever been to the chateau and you have gotten more than us, or you've been able to get different evidence or experiences, like, we want to hear about it and we want
Mhm.
to be able to maybe kind of piece it together as a huge picture rather than just what we have. So you can email us through our website if you want, ghosttpodcast.com, or you
Mhm.
can contact us through the Ghost Tea Podcast channel on our Discord, which is also, we will link it through our website. So let us know if you have any theories, because we want to hear them. We
We
want to
do.
hear them.
Yeah, we do. So, I mean, There you go. It was a wild ride. It was so much fun.
It was so
And
much fun.
like, Ariel and I are very capable and have tuned into things together from a distance from one another because
Yes.
obviously you're in the
Yes.
States and I'm here in Canada. So
Well, we
we've
often do it with missing person cases because
exactly.
we don't have any way of Kitra. Sorry, she was talking in the background. I don't know if you could hear her, but she was like talking pretty loudly.
It's like,
We've
excuse me, there's things I want to tell you.
um so there's been a lot of times that we've been tuning into missing person cases or even paranormal cases that we've had together where we're not able to be there in person to tune in at the same time with each other in the same room. So we've gotten really good at tuning into places remotely because that's how we have to usually
Yeah.
operate.
It's just a different experience
It's
when
such a
you're
different experience
okay. You
and
you want to know what's actually really interesting is someone said this on the live stream is they said, "Oh my god, you guys are seeing the same thing at the same time."
yeah.
Right? So people were shocked by that. And to be honest,
Which to
maybe they
us, it sounds so normal, like, it's so
yeah,
normal that we just didn't even think about it,
but
because we're so used to, like, finishing each other's sentence when describing what we're experiencing because
mhm,
we're both seeing the same thing.
yes.
But, like, I think when other people mention it, that's when we are like, "Oh, wait, this is
Like,
this is
maybe that
not
isn't this
normal."
maybe it isn't the case for everybody else, but, like, it is entirely possible for like, sometimes Arl will get things that are different or in addition
Yeah,
to,
we
and
don't
sometimes
always get
I'll
the same thing. Like,
yeah,
and that's
sometimes I'll get
important to
different
like,
stuff.
I promise we don't have shared psychosis. Like, we both
No.
take B vitamins every day, like, we're good.
We
But
touch our heads together and
we
we
do.
bzz bzz.
Our antennas intertwine. Um,
Oh my god.
no, we try our best not to influence each other with what we're getting, but there have been times too in like for example, we did a live stream. I wish we recorded it so badly, but we did a live stream for our Discord members where
Oh,
we
that
tuned
one. Oh,
into we tuned
yeah.
into a paranormal show that we had never watched before,
Never.
that we had randomly chose at the start of the live stream, so like people knew that we had never seen it before, and we tuned into it and we would write down what we were getting and then we
Mhm.
would share it with each other, and it was the same thing even though we had not shared what we were getting. It's very interesting. It is very validating too.
It's super validating, and I just thought that was really interesting that someone brought it up because I was like, "Oh, yeah. I guess
We're
that
just
just
two ferns in a pod.
we're just 2 ferns in a pot, and we're just growing together, and we're
We're in
just
a little
shaking our
fern
little
garden.
leaves. Our little psychic leaves are just brrr. And honestly, like, it's just really cool, but so we are entirely capable of tuning into things together from a remote distance.
Yeah.
However, it was a lot of fun to be able to be
It was
together
so nice to be able to investigate in person.
and have that experience in person,
Because that's how I
really
prefer to
just
do it. I
yeah,
prefer to be in the energy that I'm
same.
experiencing and tuning into because I feel like I'm able to get a better sense of things. Like, of course, there are going to be situations where you have to do it remotely, and we can do that. But like being in person is my preferred. Like,
Yeah.
listen. If some random ass person came up to my door tomorrow morning and was like, "Hey, so do you wanna be, like, on a paranormal show? Like, you and Alyssa just do this paranormal." I would be like, "Say no more. I will pack my bags right now.
Fucking sign the
I will
contract because
be." Yeah.
here's the thing, we need more women in the
We
televised
do.
paranormal space.
Where are all the women and the femme presenting or the
Yes.
androgynous people in the paranormal, like, where are they? Where are
Where
they?
are they?
Other and I don't want you to say like, "Oh, well, there's a co-host." No, like, where are like, the female representatives of intuitives in paranormal investigative shows? Like, we have Zach Baggins and his team, all men, We
Mhm.
have Ghost Files, which is a man and a woman, which fair, you're throwing a woman in there. That's awesome. You have mediumship shows, which, mostly are just kind of women, but that's different. Like that's
Mhm.
mediumship rather than paranormal investigating.
Mhm.
We have Ghost Hunters, which to be fair, in the earlier like seasons of Ghost Hunters, there were women in the show, but it was like mostly men. I want
Even
to
the
see.
show that we tuned into for that Discord live stream that we were
Yes,
doing, that was
it's
all
two
men.
men.
Yep.
Which, I mean, it's not to say that men can't be good investigators. I enjoy watching men
Yeah.
investigate paranormal, but I want to see more female representatives and like femme presenting people and like LGBTQIA people. Like I want
Mhm.
to see more representation in the paranormal investigative world. And I
And
just
here's the thing about the reason why that matters to us is because for a lot of people, that's the only exposure they may have to paranormal phenomenon is if
yeah.
they're watching a televised show. So if you
Mhm.
don't have diversity or you don't have a good sort of mix of presentation, people will have unconscious bias or have preconceived notions that only men or male presenting people have the courage to go
Or
after
the
things
capabilities or
or
the
the
smarts.
capabilities. Yes.
Yeah.
Which, like, honestly, there were, again, a couple of people who said on the live stream that we, I mean, take this for what you will, and maybe there's a pun intended, but that we have more balls than some of the people they've ever met. Because honestly, we would go after whatever was freaky.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we
Like,
would
we
chase
would
it.
there was a moment on the live stream where there was, something down the hallway. I can't remember what was happening, but there was something down the
Oh, yeah.
hallway.
We heard the footsteps.
Oh,
We heard the
yes.
this was the
There
4th
was
floor that we were getting really
footsteps.
freaky vibes
Mhm.
from.
We were
Mhm.
hearing footsteps in down the hallway, and
Going
to
up
be
and down
fair,
the hallway.
we wanted to go so bad,
So
but
bad.
Lucifer was standing in between us and where these footsteps were.
It was actually very
So,
unusual because he's never
it is
done that
very
before.
he tends to be kind of like uh, he just tends to be kind of annoying sometimes when it comes to paranormal investigating.
But he had never
But
done that at any point during that investigation. It was that particular
no,
hallway.
it
He
was
was
that particular
absolutely,
hallway that he was just like, "Yeah, no.
"You're
This is
absolutely not gonna go
you're
down this hallway.
you're not coming over here."
You're not gonna
Yeah.
go." And whose
So,
horse
but
is that? Like, he wasn't
horse.
even gonna he wasn't gonna let
Mhm.
us see whose horse it was. Like, he
No,
just
but we were
absolutely.
standing there and there was a I was feeling nervous. I was
Yeah,
feeling nervous, but I still wanted to go. I still
same.
wanted to just like run towards it.
It was a really awesome experience nonetheless,
It
and
was, and
and
I
I
just
know that
want
was
to
kind of
be
a bit
able
of
to
a,
see more of that. I just
yeah.
want to be able to, so if anybody wants to put us on a paranormal show, I'm all here for it.
I'm, like,
You
waving my
can't see
arms
it. I know you
vigorously.
can't see it, but I have my hand up. I'm waiting to be picked in class,
I'm a
okay?
volunteer.
I volunteer as tribute. I really would like to see more of that in the paranormal community. And I know that there are other people out there who would like to see
Yeah.
that. And it's not to say that we should cancel every other show. It's just to
No,
say
no,
that I
no.
want to see more in the paranormal investigative fields and, help people to see that femme presenting people and or female identifying people can be smart enough to do the technical part of everything
Yep,
in addition to the intuitive part of things, because
yep,
you tend to see the femme presenting or the female identifying people being the people who are the intuitive types and they just kind of like feel things, and that's fine, but I want to see also the other side of like we're doing the research, we're using the tools, we're
yep,
using the practical approach as well, because we're not just going to solely rely on our intuitive experiences. We're going to try to
yep.
get that more concrete evidence for things because that's important.
And one of the important steps for us, in addition to trying to go in as cold as possible, is also to try to debunk things along the
Yes,
way. Like, we
yes.
try to
And there
actively
were
debunk
times that
things.
we did that
Yeah,
during
there
our
were.
investigation. Like,
Mhm.
there were times when I think we heard, like, a baby crying or something,
Yeah, we
and I was
did.
like, "Oh, but you can hear it going by a certain room, so, like, it's
Yeah.
definitely someone in a bedroom." with a
Yeah,
baby.
instead of just taking every little sound as like, "Oh,
Right.
oh, that's paranormal."
Yeah.
Like it and we
Well, and not having that kind of reaction, like, there was never a time that either of us screamed.
nope.
Neither of us ever was like, "Oh my god." Like,
No.
we were never freaking out because why? Like, why do
I
that?
was
You
very
can
uncomfortable many
we
times.
were far
I was
uncomfortable,
so
okay?
uncomfortable that ended up having to get a channel moment, but
Yanked out of your
I
body.
got yanked away.
Artemis yeeted you out.
She was like, "Get the fuck out! I got this." And honestly, like, but like, I'm not gonna be like, "Oh my god!" Like, no, just no. But
Yeah.
that is not to say that we don't experience those moments of being like, "Oh shit," or like, like in my head, I'm definitely being
But
like, "This is so shitty right now.
yeah.
This is
But the
uncomfortable."
thing is too that I think in both Alyssa's and my coaching, the way that we approach spirit and the way that we coach clients is to not have fear when you're
Right.
approaching spirit. So why would we exhibit what we don't want our clients to feel? Like, we
Mhm.
want you all to feel comfortable interacting with spirit. So why would we put you all in a position where you don't feel that we can actually teach you how to do that? Like, if we
Literally.
can't do it ourselves, how are we going to teach you how to do it?
Period. Period.
So
Bang bang
there's that.
boom. Take that. Put it in your pipe and smoke it. Honestly, great story, a great experience, beautiful hotel, wonderful staff. 10 out of
Amazing.
10, amazing. Would do it again in a heartbeat.
A
It was a
thousand
lot of
percent.
fun. It remains an open mystery,
Yes.
and it remains a place that I truly feel is culturally and historically rich and is full of
Yes. Yes.
amazing experiences and people and spirits. And I just, a beautiful place for anybody. I'd highly recommend if anybody can ever make your way to the
Oh, if
capital of
you
Canada,
ever, yes,
please
stay at
come
the chateau.
to the
Yes.
chateau because it's worth your while. It's beautiful.
It's so pretty. It's so pretty.
Hope you guys enjoyed
All
this
right.
episode. It is
Yes.
the last one of 2022, which is wild, but
Oh,
I hope it was a
so
good finisher. Finish him.
oh, I'm so excited for what 2023 holds for us and the podcast and with everything that we have planned for you all. We're just really excited about it. But with that said, we hope that this was entertaining. We hope that you enjoyed this episode. Let us know your thoughts on social media or through our podcast website or through our Discord, wherever you choose to interact with us. We would love to hear your thoughts and your theories. If you are wanting to book a session or a coaching Zoom call with Alyssa and or I, you can go to our websites, which again are linked in the description, as well as our podcast websites so that you can easily find it. And with that said, stay curious, keep
Yeah.
learning, and have fun.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Okay, happy new year, guys.
Bye,
Bye.
ghosties. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Excuse me. It is me. We are editing, and we've got bloopers. So here we go. Enjoy. Girl, what are you doing? Alyssa.
Okay, I'm back.
What are you doing?
Do you really want to know?
Are you cleaning?
Okay, but I just
I
have
could
to tell
hear
you why.
you.
I have to tell
I
you
could
why.
hear
I
you.
have to tell you why. Okay, we'll
Good
put this in the
God.
bloopers.
Oh my God.
So the other day I had a candle going for a particular deity, and it fucking stained the top of my beautiful like desk, and I'm so mad about it. And I was googling like ways to try to get rid of the stain circle, or the, like, I don't know if it's a stain or a
Is
burn.
it
I
a
can't.
wax?
I don't know if it's a stain or a burn. I have no idea, but it's left a ring. And I read that you're supposed to put, or that you could try to put toothpaste on it and let it sit for a long time and then like scrub at
Girl.
it. So I fucking just did, and I looked over and I was like, "Oh yeah, I put the fucking toothpaste there like 2 hours ago. I should probably scrub
It
that."
it's if it's wax, you might be able to, put a paper towel down and then use, like, either a iron or blow dryer
I think
on
it's
it.
burned though. That's the thing.
Okay.
I'm not
You know,
entirely
it's not that
convinced.
bad though. I think you might be able to you could try sanding it down, but I don't know if there's a finish on the table. But you could
Man.
try sanding it down with like a really fine sandpaper. If it's not too bad, you probably don't have to go through that many layers.
What a fucking good like insight into my life where I'm just constantly cleaning something. Like
You
I
are.
never stop.
I was like, did I say something to set her off? Because I was just hearing
Yeah,
I was
because I
just like,
stress clean. When I'm stressed out,
yeah.
I stress clean.
I was just hearing and I was like, she's fucking cleaning over there. No, I was like, I didn't say anything. And I was like, wait, did I? And I was like, no, I didn't. I didn't.
You
And I was
didn't.
like, no, it's fine.
You didn't. It was just me looking over.
She's just cleaning.
I'm just a fucking cleaner. Like, it's what I do. I just looked over and saw the stagnant fucking toothpaste on the top of my desk. So I was just like, I should probably do a little scrub a dub dub and see if it
Oh
worked.
my
And by the way, for
God.
those who are curious, it did not work. So yeah,
It did
take that
not.
for what you will.
Yeah. Yeah.